XDefiant, a game already receiving its fair share of backlash from the community, whether it be due to the messed up hit registration, which we know is a big pain in the butt for any shooter. Looking at you, Counter-Strike. And no, I'm not bad, it's the hit registration. Or maybe it's the matchmaking issues it was receiving day one, which, if we're being honest guys, which game doesn't have matchmaking issues upon launch nowadays? I mean, are we crazy? What are we expecting? A game that functions properly and allows you to play with others? No. That's asking for far too much, right? Well, aside from the very obvious glaring issues, I'm not here to talk about them today. What I am here to talk about is the absolute repetition we are seeing in XDefiant, which is rich coming from me because I'm actually very excited for Black Ops 6. Please Treyarch, send me the collector's edition. I will do unspeakable things for it. Now, when I say repetition, I'm sure most of you guys are just expecting to hear the usual, oh, Call of Duty clone, he's just gonna call it a Call of Duty clone. And yes, while that may be true, I don't believe it makes it a horrible game. Throughout my time playing it, I actually find the gameplay to be fine, but it's just that, fine. And does that mean it's inherently bad? No, it doesn't. It just means we might be receiving another 10-year installment of the same thing. Well, nowadays we might just be receiving 10 years of updates for the same free-to-play game. Regardless of what I believe, the gaming community seems to be a very mixed bag in response to XDefiant. Many calling it bland, boring, repetitive. I mean, we even have Shroud straight up admitting he is bored on stream. And as much hate as there is, the love and response from the community is almost as big, with many calling it a Call of Duty killer and a breath of fresh air from the absolute monopoly Call of Duty has over the FPS genre. And as badly as I started this video regarding the game, it's absolutely true that the giants at Activision need a strong competitor to keep them on their toes, and I believe XDefiant could become that. I want to see this game grow, as there is so much good that I believe they could progress from, which leads me right into the good segment of this video. Right off the bat, I want to say XDefiant does a good job at capturing the regular first-person shooter feeling. When you first hop in, I'm 99% sure you're going to feel a direct correlation with Modern Warfare. I mean, the movement is there and quite solid as well. Despite being a bit floaty at certain points, it's able to feel good enough to where it's not a disturbance. Even though I don't believe it's all the way there in its gunplay just yet, they have a solid ground with a decent time to kill that I believe could be toned down just a tad bit. Now, the good thing is that they do add a sort of mix-up from the regular gameplay we're used to in tons of first-person shooters using abilities. And now that I think about it, what other first-person shooter did this? Jokes aside, the abilities do blend with the chaotic gameplay. Even though it kind of floods the screen at certain points, I'm all here for it. The chaotic nature of the game really just sells XDefiant as a first-person shooter that has had one too many Red Bulls. Oftentimes during battle, you will see tons of unique combos, with my personal favorite being Echelon and Shotguns, as it lets you maneuver quietly, especially during retakes on domination. But I know with more times, tons of more powerful combos will be posted everywhere, so you can have a sweat off with the whole mob. Something else I caught when looking at the choosable classes that I believe will be good for the longevity of the game is how they are incorporating all of the characters in the Ubisoft universe within the game. This is something you really only care about if you were playing older titles like me when you were younger and you're just getting nostalgia baited. I mean, imagine a Voss skin. Or even an Ezio skin.
Ezio, you flew! See, but not very far.
Now that would grab my money. Gameplay and skins aside, the actual attachments and levels within the game are pretty decently set up at the moment to where you can see exactly where your progress is going. Even though the skins are kind of bland and just basic at the moment, I believe they're gonna have a lot to go from here. This is nice for achievement hunters like myself who spend a ton of time grinding for camos, even though I could never get the dark matter. It's nice to see that they already have incentives set up for people playing. XDefiant has set itself up in quite a nice way where they have good gunplay, a ton of characters to choose from in the coming future when you include the entire Ubisoft universe. I mean, come on, it's kind of unfair. And a good amount of support from the community. Now, do I believe the game is great? No, it has a lot of work to do in many areas, which leads me right into the bad of the game. Boy, oh boy, where do I start? Going into XDefiant, I heard a lot of rumbling saying, COD killer this, COD killer that. And I think we just have to make it clear that this game isn't killing Call of Duty. And it's honestly something I don't think Ubisoft even thought it would be able to do. When I first started the game, the immediate thought that went to my head was how much XDefiant feels like a straight up mobile game. So much so that I genuinely had to look up if it was a mobile game before getting ported to the PC. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what gives it this feeling, but it just feels like I'm playing a mobile shooter on PC, and that's an impression you never want to give off, regardless of the game. Now, earlier when I spoke about the gunplay, I called it good, and the reason for it being just good is because it almost feels lifeless when you get eliminations. And a lot of the time when you get them, you won't even realize that you did eliminate someone. And that is just a horrible feeling for any shooter game. I feel as though the satisfaction of elimination needs to be a strong factor in any game, but especially a shooter. And while I do see the argument that when it's a run and gun game, you won't always feel as satisfied with eliminations, this is just not true, as I played many of them in my life and none left you feeling quite as empty as XDefiant does. Another thing I previously touched on was the abilities in the game and how they separated from other shooters in a way. But this only goes to a certain extent, as the more you learn about the abilities and the characters, the more you realize that they are really all bland and lifeless, with a huge amount of repetitiveness sprinkled in there. I mean, a lot of these operators look like they came from Black Ops 3. What makes it all worse is when you see the main menu, which is yet again another boring and lifeless square menu that was birthed in Modern Warfare. I gotta say, I really do miss the old menus games used to have, where it wasn't just the most copy and paste square extravaganza. Seriously though, how is it that we managed to go from this beauty to this absolute garbage? And the worst part is now every game thinks they need an unorganized cluttered menu. Sorry for the rant. Moving on to what everybody was always expecting from a free-to-play Ubisoft game, microtransactions. Everyone's favorite piece of any game. Look, there really isn't much that needs to be said in regards to microtransactions. We get it. It's a free game. There needs to be money made in some way or some form, and I get that. But please spare the $50 skins until a month after release at minimum, or else it really just reflects super poorly on what you think of the game and the consumer. Lastly, the balancing within the game is a major issue at the moment, as many people have unlocked the truly powerful guns and attachments, while regularly it wouldn't be bad for someone to have grinded to get these weapons and attachments. It takes forever for a regular player to unlock, which just makes it feel more of a game that depends solely on who has the best gun and not skill. In conclusion to this semi-analysis, semi-beatdown of XDefiant, I believe it has a strong future, and that's me being generous, as the current climate for gaming is to play a game for a week and then drop it, and wait for the next free-to-play game. Sorry, Multiverse. I believe the best bet for XDefiant and the team working on it is to keep improving in the very lacking areas and really step into their community for any recommendations and offerings they may have. Because while I may not think so highly of the game, there is a very generous and growing community within XDefiant. And it's hard to get something like that these days in gaming, with so many new games receiving attention, coming out constantly, and rightfully so, as a lot of them do show a lot of passion and work. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, as it really helps me keep making them. Also, if you enjoyed this sort of breakdown, check out my other video. It's basically the same thing. If you guys have any recommendations, want to see a video about any game, please just let me know in the comments and I will definitely do one. Okay, bye.